everyone, I'm Chef Susie with Escoffier Online. Welcome to our live session this morning. Today we're going to be making a toffee. This is super easy to make. I'm going to be making a hard caramel, then we're going to leave it set up, and then we're going to be finishing this off with some chocolate and some nuts. Pretty easy to do. So let's go ahead and get started because I have my caramel started on the stove. Okay, so basic caramel. If you're going to be making a hard caramel, we're going to bring this up to 280 degrees. Right now in this pot, I started it ahead of time because we all know that caramel takes a little while, so I didn't want us to have to wait too long. So what I did is I brought my water and my granulated sugar to a simmer, and I'm adding my corn syrup. This is just a light corn syrup. And we will be posting the recipe for you, but you know, just a few ingredients and we will be ready to go. Okay, so I've got this corn syrup added, and what we're going to do is we're going to simmer this until it comes up to 250 degrees. So I have my thermometer in here. I'm going to be taking a look at this, and with caramel, just one of those things that it takes a while when you're boiling sugar, but you don't want to go anywhere. Stay close by, and you just kind of have to wait for it to creep up and kind of watch your temperature. So once this comes to 250, I'm going to be adding the butter. I have some room temperature unsalted butter. I'm going to be adding that in. Then we're going to be bringing the mixture to 280 degrees. We're going to pull it off the stove. We're going to add some baking soda and some salt, mix it in, and then we're going to be spreading it on a pan. And please let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so when you're working with caramels and sugars in the pot like this and water, what you can do is if you see some of this crystallization, a little bit is okay, but if you're starting to see a lot, what you can do is wash down the sides with a little bit of water and a brush. So what this is going to do is it's going to help dissolve this so it doesn't chip off and fall into your mixture, and then it could cause problems. It could cause some seizing. It could even cause some, you know, just some chunks of sugar in there. So you can wash this down as you go along. And the brush that you use is important too. So you want it to be something that can withstand this heat. We're already at over 200 degrees. So it needs to be, the bristles of the brush need to be able to withstand the heat so they don't melt. Okay, so we're kind of creeping up there a little bit. We're almost at 220. Ideally, we want to be at 250. And like I said, this just kind of works on its own. You just kind of have to leave it be, and all of a sudden it'll be there. So we're going to kind of get ready a little bit, and please let me know if you have any questions. So once the butter goes in here, this is going to become very aromatic. If there's anyone in your house, maybe your neighbors too, they're really going to smell this. So it's really going to smell delicious. This is a nice butter caramel, and we're going to set it up and cover it with some chocolate. And this is great. It's great to just, you know, serve in a candy dish. You can put it in bags and give it as a gift. Super nice. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be finishing the toffee, the caramel, with some dark chocolate. You can use milk chocolate, you can use white chocolate, you can use a variety of different coatings. If you're using pure chocolate, remember you're going to have to temper it, and we talked about tempering in another session by seeding. So what I'll do is I'll put a link for the tempering of the chocolate with this video, so you have it. But you can easily use the coating. It's going to work out just fine. It just really depends on what you want to use for flavor. And like I said, I'm using a dark chocolate. You can use milk chocolate. You could even use a white chocolate, or you could use a very bitter dark chocolate too. So this is kind of a semi-sweet chocolate that I'm using today. Okay. All right, so we're kind of getting there. It's creeping up a little bit. I'm keeping a close eye on the temperature here, because this is not something that you want to get away from you. You want to keep an eye on this temperature, super important. Like I said, it takes a while, but sometimes it really creeps up on you. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to add the butter a little bit at a time. You don't want to put a whole stick in there. I'm just going to carefully drop this in a little bit at a time. Be very careful when you're doing this. Just make sure it's very hot. You don't want to get any of that on you at all. Okay, so we're getting there a little bit at a time. What's going to happen when we add the butter, even though it's not cold, it's still cold compared to this mixture. It's at room temperature. The temperature is going to drop, and then we have to bring it back up again. So don't be alarmed thinking, oh my God, I waited forever for it to get to 250 and it's back at 220 again. It'll get there eventually. I have this on a medium heat, and it works just fine. You don't want to do this too low because it's just going to take too long. So medium, or just under medium is high. If you feel like you could handle it at a little over medium, that's fine too. So we are getting there. We are almost at 250 now. We have a little bit of a ways to go. And then we're going to be adding the butter. Like I said, we're going to bring it back up to 280. It's going to take a little while. So kind of while we're here hanging out, if you have any questions, please let me know. And I like to put gloves on when I'm handling my butter. You can do this however you like. Okay, so we are at 250, so I'm going to be adding the butter. I'm adding it carefully. You don't want to splash. Don't get too close. Watch what you're doing. Don't, turn your head and talk when you got your hand in there. That's not a good idea. So this is where this is going to become very aromatic. I can smell the butter already, and I'm telling you, people are going to come running once they smell this because it's hot, it's steamy, you're adding butter to it, and it's just really going to give off a great buttery, sugary aroma. Okay, so you could even do this if you had to without a thermometer. Could keep it on for about as long as I did, and then what you'll want to look for after you add the butter is you'll want to look for a caramely color. You'll see when we're making this. It's going to turn a nice caramely color, and then it'll be just about ready. Okay, so please let me know if you have any questions. At this point, I'm just stirring this minimally. I don't want any of that butter to collect on the bottom because you could get a little bit of scorching. Every now and then I do get a little bit of scorching when I'm doing this. Okay. Keep in mind, this is a small batch. If you're going to make something larger, time is going to increase. It's going to take a lot longer to get to all of these different stages. Okay, so it seems that I have my butter pretty well mixed in. So you want to stay close by this, especially with these smaller batches. They go fast and they take a long time all in one. Okay, so we are getting there. Okay, so we're already back up to 250, just about. So we've got some ways to go. As you can see, this is already changing in color. And there is a pretty fair amount of butter in this, and keep in mind there's milk solids in this butter too. It's going to give it that opaque look. Okay, so I just kind of mix it until my butter is incorporated, and then I'm just going to let this rise the temperature. So you want to be ready with your pan. So let's talk about what we're going to be putting this on. Silpats work perfect for this, but if you don't have a silpat, you could line your tray with oil, put some vegetable oil on it. If you have a nice new tray, maybe like this, and you know it's very clean, you can put the oil right on the tray. Or if you have an older tray with some packing in it, just line it with some aluminum foil, and then you can go ahead and put a little bit of oil, not too much, because you just don't want any sticking. But silpats for this are really ideal, but if you don't have one, you can easily work around that. I'm thinking a non-stick cookie sheet would work too as well, but the first time you're making it with a non-stick cookie sheet, I recommend oiling it first. Maybe you could do a little section that doesn't have oil on it, just make sure that it's not sticking. It shouldn't stick, but one never knows, right? Okay, so this is turning a nice caramely color. As you can see the color turning. And this is something that you would watch for if you didn't have a thermometer and you were doing this without a thermometer. So we're just going to kind of let it work on its own. We're going to bring it up to 280 degrees. It's climbing pretty quickly, so hopefully it won't take too long. Then we're going to be putting it, going to take it off the stove. And I've got my baking soda, not baking powder, baking soda and my salt, and we're going to be adding this after we take this off the stove. Sometimes it can bubble up a little bit, so just be careful when you're adding this. The baking soda is going to really contribute to the browning, and it's going to add a little bit of bubbling, and it's going to help with the snap of the caramel. Okay, so we're just about at 280. Be mindful when you're taking these temperatures that you're not letting this go too long. Okay, so we are here and this looks perfect. And we're going to be adding our salt and our baking soda. And we're just going to be careful that we're mixing this in all the way. Just be very careful with your mixing. I like to use wooden spoons for things like this because it's not going to heat up on you. If you're using a metal spoon and you're mixing something so hot, eventually the spoon is going to get hot on you too. Wooden spoons are perfect for using for caramels, and I pretty much use my wooden spoon most of the time in the kitchen. Okay, so this is well incorporated. Got some sliding around here because there's the oil from the butter, but just double checking that I have all of that baking soda and salt incorporated. Okay, so we are going to pour this on our sheet pan. We're going to spread it out with our spatula, then we're going to let it cool. Okay, so there is some aeration and there is some bubbling here, and once we start spreading this around, you're going to see that it's going to flatten out a little bit. Okay, this aeration, was caused by the baking soda. So you're just going to, you don't have to get this perfect because we are going to be covering this with chocolate, and then we're just going to be breaking this up. These offsets are nice too. It's keeping your hand away from this caramel. If you're spreading this without an offset, be careful that you're not running your knuckles accidentally on this caramel. Keep in mind, it looks great, it smells delicious, but it is super hot, 280 degrees. So be really careful when you're doing this. Okay, so this is our caramel, our hard caramel on our pan. You're going to leave this cool all the way before you add the chocolate. You can leave it cool at room temperature. The problem if you put this in the refrigerator or the freezer and it gets really cold and you put the warm chocolate on, you might experience some cracking. But if you're in a hurry, you have to chill it, then you'll have the cracking, and you're cracking it anyway, but I usually let mine cool at room temperature. Be careful, this pan's going to be hot, especially on the bottom. You may need some towels to maneuver it around, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some caramel that I made earlier. So this is nicely set. It's got a nice firmness to it, and what we're going to do is we are going to put some chocolate and some nuts on the top. And I'm using a pecan. You can pretty much use whatever nut that you like. You can also use some sprinkles with this, and it's really limitless what you can put on this. So please let me know if you have any questions. And I'm just going to be spreading my chocolate around. So I've just got a nice layer. And then before the chocolate sets up, I'm going to be putting a layer of my pecans. And like I said, you can use any nut. You could use walnuts, macadamia nuts. I don't know, pumpkin seeds are pretty too, the greenness on those. Okay, so my nuts, I've chopped these up, and they even have a little bit of powderiness to them. And you want to get these on here before the chocolate sets so they can stick and they're going to kind of be embedded. Okay, and like I said, nuts are limitless and you can do sprinkles or whatever you like on this. So I have a pan that I made earlier that we're going to take a look at in just a minute here. But what I usually do is I put my chocolate on both sides of this. And some people put their chocolate on one side. I like to do both sides. So what you're going to do is let this set up, and then you're going to go ahead and turn it over. You probably have to peel it off the silpat a little bit or the foil. Let it set, peel it off, and then just turn it over and do the other side, and then it'll be ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the toffee that I made earlier. I put chocolate and nuts on both sides. So we're going to be breaking up a little bit. And whenever I handle my chocolate, my toffee, I always put gloves on so I don't get any fingerprints. And also if my hands are a little bit warm, then I'm not going to be melting the chocolate. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to break this up, and they do sell those cute little toffee hammers, which are, sometimes they'll say toffee on the handle. If you ever see one, I would grab it for sure. But you can just break these up, and you can put it in a candy dish, or you can stack these and tie them with a ribbon, or you can put it in a box. So I just kind of like to break my pieces up, and we're going to be putting this in a dish. And please let me know if you have any questions, because we're going to be saying goodbye soon. And as you can see, the caramel has a nice snap to it and a nice chocolate coating. So I'll go ahead and start putting this in a dish here. And you can do larger pieces, you can do smaller pieces, whichever you like. And the crumbs, when you're done, you're always going to have crumbs when you're breaking things up, are great for ice cream toppings. So our toffee is super beautiful, has a nice snap to it. You can even hear it when I'm breaking it up. And thanks so much for joining me, and we're going to say our goodbyes soon. And please try the toffee and let me know how you like it, and maybe what kind of chocolates you used, or if you put some sprinkles on here. So we have a super beautiful dish of toffee, and like I said, you can put these in a box, you can serve it, you can put it in a nice little bag. And thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.